I'm going to be so real right now. I just took a break to get some water and I noticed that in the footage my bra strap was showing. So, oh my God. Oh my God. And you know what? We're going to roll with it because I am not re-recording everything. And if it slips again, no, it didn't. Hello, my name is Kayla and welcome to my channel. It is finally spring and thank God, because I feel like that was the roughest winter that we've had in a while. Even while I'm filming this, the weather is fluctuating a lot, going from cold to warm, back to cold again. So we're going to get there. We're going to stay warm. And with the warmer weather coming, it is also time for me to pick out my reads for April, May, and June using my lovely TBR jar. So inside this jar, I have a bunch of different prompts, and we're going to be picking out 6 today for 6 different books for me to read this spring. Before we get into that though, I just wanted to briefly go over my reads for the winter. And if you'd like to check out my winter TBR video, you can check it out right here. For January, February, and March, I picked out 6 books, and out of those 6, I was able to read 3. I know in my last video, I emphasized, just doing this for fun, but I genuinely wanted to read all 6 of those books, but it was a busy time for me during those months. On top of that, Wuthering Heights was a bit of a challenge for me just because it was the first classic novel that I read in a really long time and that it's written in Old English as well. And that took me pretty much all of January and then spilling into February to finish that book. And then I followed that up with First Time Caller, and then I quickly read Project Hail Mary just before the movie came out. But I am proud that I at least got through half of my picks for the winter. So that does leave Remarkably Bright Creatures, Not Another Love Song, and Speak to go back on my shelves. But you never know. I might pick some prompts today that will just lead me right back to them. So with all that out of the way, let's get to picking our first prompt. So the first prompt says, a book with black on the cover. Starting off strong. We're surrounded by colors, but first and foremost, I love black. I love black. Ooh, we could do Slewfoot. I had brought this up during the winter TBR video. This does look really great and takes place during the 17th century. Pretty sure during like Salem witch trials. So that could be a contender for sure. Also, this book I have been putting off for a while, and that is As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson. This is part of the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. I have read the first 2 books in the series, and this is the 3rd installment, 3rd and final installment. I thought the first book was okay, and then the second one I liked a little less than the first book, and I don't know, I don't like having a series left unread, so maybe I should pick this today just so I can finish it. I would definitely need to do a whole recap because I do not remember what happens at the end of the last book. I think that is all that I have that has black on the cover. Ooh, I do. Hold on. I do have Beyond the Story, a 10-year record of BTS. If y'all don't know, yes, I am ARMY. I am a big fan of BTS. ARMY is their fan base. And I did get tickets with one of my friends to go see them this summer. So, so with this book, this is a biography of BTS and their entire career. I believe this was released maybe a year after they had started going into the army, and I bought it and I just have not read it. I've not gotten to it yet. Since they have come back and they've released an album and everything, and there is a lot that I still don't know about them in their entire career because I only became a fan maybe about 5 years ago. So yeah, I think it's going to have to go to this one for sure. Because Slewfoot feels fall, and I remember saying that in my last video as well. And why not procrastinate this more? I know my one friend that really wants me to read this. She's glaring at me through the screen right now. But you know what? Yeah, I'm going to have to go with BTS. So for my first pick for spring, it is Beyond the Story, a 10-year record of BTS. So let's pick out prompt number 2, a cozy mystery book. Okay, let me see if I have anything like that. I mean, As Good as Dead is a mystery book. I don't know if it's necessarily cozy, but that is still an option. But actually, there is another option here, and that is Remarkably Bright Creatures. So I did pick this one for my winter TBR, but I never got around to it, and this is definitely a mystery. So Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt is about a woman named Tova, and she works at an aquarium, and living at this aquarium is an octopus named Marcellus. Now, Tova, her son, had mysteriously disappeared over 30 years ago, and she develops like this friendship with Marcellus, the octopus, while she's working at the aquarium. So Marcellus decides that he wants to figure out what happened to her son. And it's all written in the perspective of the octopus, I'm pretty sure. And it just sounds so cute. That definitely fits within the prompt of a mystery novel. I know that this is also being adapted into a movie, and I think it is coming out this May. So if I could finish this before then, that would be perfect. Also, I never got to read this with one of my friends, and we were going to do like a little mini book club, and I want to put this back on the list. For sure. So my second pick is Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. So on to prompt number 3. And this prompt says, the book with the highest average rating on Goodreads. Oh man. Okay, let me pull up my Goodreads real quick. This could be very risky because Goodreads and like TikTok have done me wrong before. So this could be good or this could be bad. So we'll see. So the highest rated book on my TBR shelf, according to Goodreads, is Hood Feminism by Mikki Kendall. The subtitle reads Notes from the Women That a Movement Forgot About. So this is a collection of essays, and the back reads, today's feminist movement has a glaring blind spot, and paradoxically, it is women. Mainstream feminists rarely talk about meeting basic needs as a feminist issue, but food security, access to quality education, safe neighborhoods, a living wage, and medical care are all feminist issues. All too often, however, the focus is not on basic survival for the many, but on increasing privilege for the few. How can we stand in solidarity as a movement, Kendall asks, when there is the distinct likelihood that some women are oppressing others? In her searing collection of essays, Mikki Kendall takes aim at the legitimacy of the modern feminist movement, arguing that it has chronically failed to address the needs of all but a few women. An unforgettable debut, Kendall has written a ferocious call to all would-be feminists to live out the true mandate of the movement in thought and in deed. I remember browsing Barnes & Noble and picking this up and being like, wow, this sounds powerful. And yeah, I'm looking forward to reading this one and learning more and how I can be a better feminist myself. So for my third pick this spring, it is Hood Feminism by Mikki Kendall. So for our fourth prompt, it reads a book with purple on the cover. Okay. So we have some options here. This would actually be a challenge for me. I read Wuthering Heights in the winter, and this is another classic novel, Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. I have been wanting to read this for a while. I had read Pride and Prejudice in the past, and I would love to reread that one because that was a science school reading, and I feel like I would love the book now as an adult that I'm like reading it out of my own free will. I feel like that I would like this novel as well. We also have A Love Song for Ricky Wilde by Tia Williams. One of my favorite books from last year that I read was 7 Days in June, and it's just so incredible. I loved Tia Williams' writing. Her style is definitely funny. Also, she handles really serious topics so well. And when I saw that this was released last year, I really wanted to pick this up and read it. Obviously, I bought the book, and it just sounds really good. Ricky Wilde has many talents, but being a Wilde isn't one of them. As an impulsive artistic daughter of a powerful Atlanta dynasty, she's the opposite of her socialite sisters. Where they're long-stemmed roses, she's a dandelion, an adorable bloom that's actually a weed born to float wherever the wind blows. When a regal nongenarian, Miss Della, invites her to rent a floor of her Harlem brownstone, Ricky jumps at the chance for a new beginning. She leaves behind her family, wealth, and chaotic romantic decisions to realize her dream of opening a flower shop in New York City. Soon the dream turns into a modern fairy tale when she encounters a handsome, mysterious stranger who knocks her world off balance in the most magical ways. I mean, for her to work in a flower shop and it's spring? Hello? And one of my favorite genres is magical realism, and for this to be a romance as well. Yeah, I'm gonna have to pick this one. So my fourth pick for this spring is A Love Song for Ricky Wilde by Tia Williams. All right, so for our fifth prompt, it reads, a book with a flower name in the title. Flower name? Flower name? Flower shop? All right. Okay, it is spring. It is spring. I think there's only one book that is applicable here, and that is The Perks of Being a Wallflower. So I have seen the movie before, and it is one of my favorite movies of all time. And I have not read the book, and it would be really great to read the source material of one of my favorite movies. I remember back in high school, I think it was my senior year, a lot of my friends were taking AP psychology at the time, and they were reading this. And I believe it was that same year that the movie did come out. So of course I went to the movies with my friends, but I never got to read this. Yeah, I think it's time to read this one. So for our fifth pick for this spring, it is Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. All right, so our final prompt for this spring, and this reads, A Book with Magic. We have quite a few options for this one. So I could go with The Lantern of Lost Memories. That definitely has magic in it. I do have this book called Before the Coffee Gets Cold. This one has been on my shelf for a while. Oh, but wait. Okay. I think this is the one I'm going to go with. And this is A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sangu Mandana. I talked about this in my last video. I didn't end up picking it. I had read The Secret Society of Irregular Witches, and I loved that book so much. And look at that cover. Look at that cover. If that doesn't say spring, like what does? I don't believe I read the description in the last video, so let me read that real quick. Sarah Swan used to be one of the most powerful witches in Britain. Then she resurrected her great aunt Jasmine from the very recently dead, lost most of her magic, befriended a semi-villainous talking fox, and was exiled from her guild. Now she, slightly reluctantly and just a bit grumpily, helps Jasmine run an enchanted inn in Lancashire, where she deals with her quirky guest shenanigans, tries to keep said talking fox in check, and longs for a future that seems lost to her. But then she finds out about an old spell that could hold the key to restoring her power. Enter Luke Larson, a handsome and icy magical historian who arrives on a dark autumn evening and just might know how to unlock the spell's secrets. Luke has absolutely no interest in getting involved in the madcap goings-on of the inn, and is definitely not about to let a certain bewitching innkeeper past his walls. So no one is more surprised than he is when he agrees to help Sarah with her spell. Worse, he might actually be thawing. Running an inn, reclaiming lost magic, and staying one step ahead of the watchful guild is a lot for anyone, but Sarah Swan is about to discover that she doesn't have to do it alone, and that the weird, wonderful family that she's made might be the best magic of all. Okay. I know it also stated autumn, but this gives me spring vibes. It sounds like a new beginning, like Sarah's trying to figure things out in her life. Yeah, we're definitely going to go with this one. So the final pick for this spring is A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sangu Mandana. So to quickly summarize my picks for this spring, we picked out 6 books. The first prompt read A Book with Black on the Cover, and I selected Beyond the Story, a 10-year record of BTS. The second prompt read A Cozy Mystery Book, and I selected Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. The third prompt read The Highest Average Rating on Goodreads, and I picked Hood Feminism by Mickey Kendall. The fourth prompt was A Book with Purple on the Cover, and I chose A Love Song for Ricky Wilde by Tia Williams. The fifth prompt read A Book with a Flower Name in the title, and I chose Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. And the final prompt read A Book with Magic, and I chose A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sangu Mandana. I feel like this is a really good selection of books. I know with my winter TBR, there were a few books that I was kind of nervous to read, that I wasn't sure that I was gonna like. But with these books, I feel like I'm definitely gonna love and learn a lot. I love that I picked out 2 nonfiction books and then the rest are fiction. And yeah, I have a good feeling about these. I definitely want to aim to read all of them. I also don't want to add any pressure. We're trying to balance that out. That is all for today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me as I pick some books to read this spring. And tell me in the comments, do you have a favorite spring read? Maybe it can be something that has to do with new beginnings as the seasons change, or maybe it just has a spring vibe. I don't know exactly what that means, but I'm always looking for new recommendations if you have any. Be sure to give this video a like, and if you liked me, feel free to subscribe. And I will see you in another video soon. Bye!